Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the original Season 2, Episode 6, Wheel Inside the Wheel. And once again, guys, this was another amazing episode. And again, best episode of the season. I know I keep saying that, but you know what, guys? The Originals is one of those shows that every single episode is truly better than the last. Every single episode this year, it's been that way. Every single episode this season, it's pretty much been that way, that every episode has been better than the last. And it really is one of those shows that just tops itself, more and more and more every single episode and gets better and better and better as it goes on. I love that about the Originals, definitely. And this episode had some pretty big reveals. It had, surprisingly, a very shocking death, which I wasn't expecting. It focused on some characters that we hadn't seen in a while. It had some really good flashbacks, definitely, and we definitely found out a lot more about Esther and Mikeal, and I definitely really enjoyed that. Now, there was no Davina or Caleb or Cole, Davina or Cole in this episode, or Mikeal. Mikeal was not in this episode either. He was in flashbacks, but that whole plot was kind of torn off to the side, and it focused more on Esther and Elijah and Klaus and them trying to basically save him, and that was going on there. So let's just get to it. And basically we see a young Esther, we see basically from the Kingdom of Norway with the flashback there, we see young Esther is seeking help from her sister, who we had no idea existed. I had no idea that Esther had a sister, so I thought that was really weird, because it's like, alright, so I guess she had a sister, okay, but basically, she's trying to get help from her sister to make her fertile, as she is struggling to get pregnant, because she wants to get pregnant and everything. And her sister tells her that she requires heavy sacrifice and agrees to help her sister. And I thought that was really good. And what I really liked is that this really set up Esther and Mikeal's first child, because we actually didn't know who their first child was. So after that, we see that Finn and Esther still have, they have Ollie captive. They're holding him captive. And they're holding him as an example for the other wolves, and once that is taken care of, basically the other wolves are going to turn against the other wolves pretty much. And once that's taken care of, Esther approaches a still sleeping Elijah. She tortures him. She literally slits his throat, and she's torturing him with both bad and good memories. She tells him about her fond memories of what he was like when he was younger, and says she would do anything for the little boy and him, and then, slits his throat. So that was really crazy. You can definitely see it. She is still torturing him. I thought that was definitely really crazy what was going on. That was a perfect way to start the episode, in my opinion. I really was already really into the episode because of that. So Klaus's hands are bloody, and Haley is walking on walks him on him to cleaning up, and Klaus tells Haley that he needs to draw Esther out, but refuses Haley's help, but she tells him she wants to accompany him to save Elijah, because that's their main thing right now, is that they need to save Elijah, because they know that Elijah is in danger, and they know that he's being held captive by Esther, which I personally was very interested in seeing, because of course we know that basically Esther has kind of compelled Elijah to think that Haley's really there when she's not, and, I thought that was definitely very interesting. I was wondering if that was still going to go on, and we really didn't see too much of that in this episode, which I thought was interesting. The other thing about this episode is that while it did focus on that, this episode focused a lot more on the wolves, and I definitely really enjoyed that, and I thought that was very well done. So basically, she wants to accompany him to find Elijah, and that's what's going to happen there. So, GM Marcel. We see more of GM Marcel in this episode. They're still looking for Elijah, and Haley asks them for her help to save Elijah. To save Ollie. And she tells them that saving Ollie will lead them to Elijah, and Marcel warns her of the danger, but she sets out to find Jackson, the Alpha, instead. And I understand why Haley, is saying, look, this is actually going to help us, but of course they don't want to help because Marcel is against werewolves right now. But of course, as we know, Jackson and, Jackson and Josh are working together, so it actually would be a good thing in the long run. They don't know about this, but of course that would actually be a good thing. And we don't see Josh in this episode, but I thought that was definitely very interesting. I was definitely very interested in that. So basically, Cami is approached by Finn once more at the bar, and one of the things people complain about this season, which I personally haven't complained about, is that Finn has not had a lot to do, and it does kind of make sense, because Esther's had so much to do. Cole has actually had a lot to do, he's had a lot of doing with Davina. Really, Finn has just been around and helping his mother, just helping his mother plan this, and that's really all he's done. However, he actually does have something to do in this episode, because he approaches Cami, and at this point, she isn't aware of his, deviance. She doesn't realize that this isn't actually, she thinks it's Vincent, but she doesn't realize it's actually Finn, and she opens up to him once again, and is unaware that she's telling Finn everything, creating a weakness for the group. And Finn orders for Cami, and it triggers something inside of her, and she immediately leaves. And that was definitely very strange. So Klaus is out digging up his mother's grave to desecrate it, but he's approached for what looks to be Elijah. So I was like, what? Like, how is he seeing Elijah? Because as we know, Elijah's being held captive right now. So I didn't really know what was going on here. I mean, the show likes to confuse us. The show likes to basically mind fuck us. They like to do that to us. So I thought this was definitely very interesting. Because basically this vision of Elijah, you can tell right away this is not Elijah in his true form. Because the vision of Elijah trying to persuade Klaus to talk to their mother, but he realizes that they are just visions. And pretty much for the rest of the episode, it's Esther and Klaus. A lot of Esther and Klaus conversation. And I definitely really, really enjoyed that. And I thought that was very, very good. Because, I mean, last week it focused more on Elijah and Esther, but this really focused a lot more on Esther and Klaus, which is very important because, of course, Klaus was Esther's favorite child. She favorited him. They had that bond. They had that relationship. And, pretty much it was definitely very interesting to see what was going to happen there. I was very interested in that. So what ends up happening is basically that Esther approaches Klaus and offers to return Elijah if he listens to her. And she revisits the old plantation with Klaus as she speaks to him, and she questions him about the choices that he has made over the past years. And I thought this was actually very interesting because, of course, Klaus has made some bad choices over the years. He was in the Vampire Diaries, he pretty much was the central villain of the show. I mean, he was a killer. He killed people. He killed, Jenna. He killed a bunch of people. I believe he killed a Lark. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that, but I believe he killed a Lark. But he has definitely made some very bad choices. But the thing is, he has definitely changed since then, and he's not really like that anymore. But I thought that was interesting that she brought that up to him. And she brings up the suffering that he has inflicted over the years, and he tells her to quit the hypocritical rant, and then fills her in on a little secret she was unaware of. And I agree that she needs to stop the hypocrisy. So he learns that Mikeal has actually, risen her face completely, and she does not know that Mikeal is alive, and he tells her that Mikeal is risen. Her face completely changes. She is completely shocked, and I thought that was awesome. So Cami approaches Marcel about Finn, and he reveals that Vincent is actually Finn. And she says that she's just getting started with Finn and refuses to back down. So I'm like, okay, I guess that bond that Cami and Marcel had, I guess, is done because now she's not going to listen to him. So I thought that was really interesting. So, meanwhile, Klaus and his mother, they're still discussing the past, and she's trying to convince him that his father, Mikeal, wasn't always filled with hatred, which we know this, because we found out last week that Mikeal used to be a very loving father. We know this, because, she talked to Elijah about this last week, and basically she tells him the same thing here. She appeals to Klaus, asking him to join her. Basically, he talks about how he was actually a very loving father to their first child, Freya, who was basically their first daughter, and he loved her dearly. And I thought that was definitely very interesting. So she's appealing to Klaus, asking him to join her, and in return, she will grant him peace. She claims that she's going to turn him into a full-on werewolf. Because he knows that, she knows that that is what he wants, which is true. I mean, if Klaus had to choose between vampire or werewolf, he would choose to be a werewolf. Because as we know, Marcel is now on Klaus' side right now, and that's because Klaus is working with the werewolves. So, because of this, Esther is kind of using that as collateral to get Klaus on her side, which I think is definitely a very genius plan and definitely very interesting what Esther is trying to do there. So I was very interested in that, and I definitely really enjoyed that. I thought that was definitely very well done in my opinion. So, basically, Esther says if Mikeal returned to harm her, she would strike him down herself, but Klaus refuses, and upon his refusal, we get a huge thing here. Esther tells Klaus that she has the truth about his real father, because as we know, we found out last week, Mikeal's not his real father, and we'll talk about that in a second. So Haley finds Jackson, who was supposed to be her husband at some point in time, which is weird, and Esther, we find that out, which I thought was a very good reveal. I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, and I thought that was definitely very interesting that we found that. I wasn't thinking of that, but it does kind of make sense, that happened. So I thought that was interesting. So Esther reminds Klaus about how he murdered her and the reason behind it, and he tells her that if it was her lies that made him kill her. That it was her lies that made him kill her, and he calls her a whore. She slaps and reminds him that he is still her son, and then she tells him there's nothing to take away the pain of the son. And, basically, again, she's still just trying to get him on her side, which is not working. You can tell it definitely is not working. And, you can just tell right away, okay, this is definitely not working. So Jackson gives Haley his reason for drifting away from all the trouble, and Haley appeals to Jackson by talking about Ollie's situation, but it only incites his rage, and Jackson's new friend agrees to help Haley out of the respect for his kind. So that was definitely very interesting. So Esther's continuing to relive the first time he met Klaus's father. Her decision to become drawn to another man stemmed from Mikeal's drifting away. Basically, he was drifting away and becoming distant, and because of that, that is why she basically made Mikeal the full-time father, and Klaus didn't really have a relationship with his real father. He really didn't, and I thought that was definitely very sad what Esther did. I can understand why she did it, but in the end, Klaus did not have a relationship with his father. He wants to. You can tell that he does. But he doesn't have one, so, it was definitely very sad that happened, and I really felt bad for Klaus because of that, because I want him to have a good relationship with his father, want him to have he hates Mikeal so much that maybe he would actually have a good relationship with his father. So, he questioned why his father was not there for him to help him grow, and Esther took the blame upon herself. And meanwhile, Marcel is having trouble letting Cami get close to Finn, and she makes a strong case to him for why she needs to be involved. And I understand, why she's saying this. She doesn't really know if she can trust Klaus or whatever. She doesn't really know if she can trust them right now. I understand that. But at the same time, this is not going to work well in the end because this is all just Esther's plan. It's all just Esther's plan, and it's not going to work well for her because we don't really know if Finn is on her side or not. And Marcel does, I think, still care about Cami. I mean, even though she does not want a relationship, I do think that Marcel genuinely cares about Cami, and it just is looking out for her best interest. I do think he's doing that. So, just then, Haley calls Marcel and updates him on the new help. And, he's not 100% sure if this is what he wants to do, but he listens to her. So Esther told Klaus that when he was born, she lied to Mikeal and said she was having his child, and this is why Mikeal hates Klaus, and we find out why here. Basically, she lied to Mikeal and said she was having his child, and he never questioned it. And she told Klaus to protect him, but that she lied, but offered him a chance to be purebred werewolf. And Klaus had had enough, demanded his brother. However, he was attacked by Esther, who used her powers to snap his neck. And this was just crazy when this happened, definitely. It's really crazy. And he looked to have been dreaming about the day he found out who his real father was. And Esther tells him that he woke earlier than expected, and also told him that he was free to take Elijah. And that was awesome when she said that. She said, look, you can just take Elijah, whatever. I'm like, alright, I guess he can just take Elijah. That's not weird at all. I mean, before you're holding Elijah hostage, and now you're telling Klaus he can take Elijah? Like, what is really your angle here, Esther? I didn't really know what her angle here was, and I thought that was definitely very weird that she's like, oh, you can just take your brother, it's fine. However, basically he looked to have been dreaming about the day he found out who his real father was, and Esther tells him that he woke earlier than expected, and she tells him that all she has given him was the truth, and that Elijah will decide for himself what fate he wants to accept. So, that was definitely, really interesting, and we'll get to the coolest part of this episode in a second. We'll get to the really cool part here, but, that was definitely very interesting, and I myself was like, I don't know if I trust Esther. I don't think this is going to work. I don't think she's actually going to let Klaus take Elijah, but you never know. So, Gia meets up with Marcel, and she's given lookout duty, and Cami apologizes to Finn in her second meeting of the day as she tries to get closer to him, and again, this is not going to work, okay? I understand that she's trying to get close to him, but it's not going to work in the long run because I just don't think that, he's really on her side pretty much. So, Haley and her helper find Ollie, but they faced a bigger threat when they realized that they have been detected. And Cami and Finn are continuing the cryptic discussion where she uses his previous words against him, and she disguises her inquisitive nature for a way to find coping methods. And Haley's friend is a noble werewolf who vowed to hold off the pack while Haley and Ollie escaped. And Cami can't disguise her feeling of being on edge around Finn. Finn tells her that her interest is unexpected, and she tells him that she doesn't want him to tell her to stop seeing Klaus. And I thought that was genius that she said that, because I knew that this had something to do with Klaus. I mean, think about it. Those two have had really good chemistry in the past 2 episodes. They had really good chemistry in episode 4. They had that really great scene together. And then in episode 5, they had amazing chemistry as well. And they seem to definitely get, like, some sort of relationship going on there. So I definitely like that this is really all about Klaus. And I definitely really enjoy it. I know some people are not, Clammy fans, but I ship Clammy. I do. If I had to pick, like, one person for Clammy to be with, Klaus is perfect for her, because I think those two have really, really good chemistry, in my opinion, and I just think that they are the best, in my opinion, to have, chemistry. So, basically, she's about to shank him when he sways her with promise of help. He's going to tell her that, look, I'm going to help you through this, but my question is he actually telling her the truth? Is he actually going to help her? I don't know if he's actually going to help her there. So, G and Marcel have had an ongoing battle outside, which they won, and Haley and Ollie are struggling to stay out of the clutches of Esther's army, but then she readies herself for battle, and Ollie tries to persuade them, but telling them about their pack's dreams. Ollie approaches them, and his people let them pass without a struggle. So, Klaus, at this point, is going insane. He's pretty much just going insane. He doesn't realize what's actually going on. He doesn't see what's real and what's reality. So he meets up with the man who is suspected to be his father. This guy is claiming that he is his father. He's claiming that, he has been with Klaus. He's claiming all this shit and everything. And Klaus thinks that he is hallucinating. He thinks that basically this is a phantom that was summoned by his mother. And it makes sense why Klaus doesn't, believe any of this. Because Esther's done stuff like this before. I mean, think about what she did to Elijah. It makes sense that he doesn't think that his father's really there. So, basically, he soon figures out that he is seeing his real father in flesh and blood. His father, Ansel, and I thought that was an amazing twist that we now know who his father is, and it's going to be interesting to see if these two can actually have a genuine relationship, because now that his father's back, I'm wondering if Klaus is going to use his father, or use him with him, or against him, if he's going to really trust him, what's going to happen here, because Klaus, obviously, I think does want to have a genuine relationship with his father, but he doesn't really know if he can trust him, because he doesn't know if he's working with Esther or not, and had anything to do with that. Plus, he knows that his father and Esther did have a relationship, so he doesn't know if there's anything going on there as well. So, I definitely understand why Klaus is upset about that. So, his father tells him that he awoke about 4 moons, and at this point, Klaus is completely hysterical. He has no idea what's going on. He's like, get out, I don't know what's going on here. And his father's claiming him as his own, but Klaus stands before him and tells him that he is nothing to him, ordering him to crawl back to hell. And he's basically like, get out of here, you mean nothing to me, go back to hell. And he's like screaming at Esther, he's like, alright Esther, I know what you're doing. And like, that was just insane what was going on there. But you can tell this is his real father because he's calling him by his full name. The only people that call Klaus by his full name are Esther, Mikeal, and his real father. Those are the only people that would call him by his real name. You know, they say Nick Klaus. When someone says Nick Klaus, that's his full name. The only people that do that are Esther, his real father, and Mikeal. Those are the only people that really do that. So, Marcel is nursing Gia back to health, and after the showdown, because, you know, they just had that really big showdown, Gia says that Marcel is building Fitz, the person she wants to become, and that she doesn't want to run anymore. So he receives a call from Cami, and she informs him that Finn might actually be her blind spot. But I just don't think that she should trust Finn. I don't think he's really with her. I think he's trying to play her and get her on her side and get her on his side to make it seem like, you know, she can trust him, but he's eventually going to turn against her because this is all Esther's doing. I'm pretty sure that Esther told him to do this because we know that, you know, she told Cole to seduce Davina and have a relationship with her. We do know that, I do think that Cole genuinely cares about Davina. I don't know if I can say the same for Finn and Cami, though. I just don't know if I can. You know, I'd have to see more, but we might just have to see. So, Jackson asks for Ansel, but Haley tells him he was left behind, and Oliver tries to convince Jackson that he can free the rest of his people and rise against the wishes. Just then, he's going crazy pretty much. You know, Jackson doesn't know what's going on. He's like, what's going on? Haley's like, oh, it's the, it's the witch, basically. And Ollie ends up dying right there. And I actually felt bad, and I thought it was interesting because Ollie was not a huge character. He was in the sense that he was very important. He was on the wolf side, but now that he's dead, I honestly feel very affected by that because I like that we got some development with Jackson and Ollie. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that they did that last season as well, and I do like that they're still going to have development with the two of them. So now Jackson's going to have to, he is the head alpha, so he's still the alpha and everything, but now Jackson's really going to have to step up and take some action here because Ollie's dead, and obviously he's not going to be happy. He's so beside himself that actually looks like he may rise up to help the cause. So I'm thinking that maybe Jackson's going to help them with this Esther issue because Ollie was killed because of Esther. So I'm thinking that Jackson is definitely going to help Klaus now. And my prediction, I still think is going to happen. I do think that by the end of this season, or at least the mid-season, that the vampires and the werewolves are going to be a tag team. They're going to be a tag team. They're going to help each other. They're going to be, there for each other. They're going to basically help each other because they both want to take down Esther. And I think that definitely is very interesting. So Klaus finds his brother hanging from the chains and he rescues him. And Elijah's still in the deep sleep and he's trying to wake him up. But Esther informs that he will not wake up just yet. She wants to discuss one last thing with Klaus before she lets him take Elijah. And Klaus is like, oh, I know that, Ansel's not really back, and she reveals that she actually brought Ansel back from the dead to teach Klaus to be the man he was made to be, which is a werewolf. So Ansel is a werewolf, and he's going to help Klaus to become a werewolf. But I personally do not think this is going to work, because this is Klaus we're talking about. Klaus is not just going to easily be like, alright, fine, I'll listen to you. No, Klaus is going to really think about this, and in the end, I think this is definitely going to backfire for Esther, because of just the way it's all working out. So Klaus once again rejects his mother, and tells her that he has more hatred for her, and I loved this scene, oh my god. This scene was amazing. Joseph Morgan in this scene, by far the best actor on the show, okay? I don't care. I know I've said before, Davina's my favorite character, but no, not anymore. Klaus is the best character on the show, okay? He is so full of rage. He is so interested in killing his mother, and this scene was just so awesome to watch. It's something that I loved, and I love that they did that. This was great. So he once again rejects his mother. He literally grabs her by the neck. He's like, he has more hatred for her now than ever before. He tells him that his daughter is and I love that he said this because it really is true. His daughter is the reason for his hatred, and it makes sense why he said that, because if you remember, the whole reason that they are back is because Genevieve died. That's basically why they're back, and basically he tells him that his daughter is the reason for his hatred. Before she could take over his mind, he firms the grip around her throat. She's about to take over his mind and everything, but he firms the grip around her throat and throws her to the floor and tells her, nope, I am now against you. I'm not going to let you do this, and I'm going to turn against you. So I thought that was a really awesome way to end the episode. And he rescues his brother, and basically he's going to rescue his brother. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. And in one last flashback, we get one really quick flashback here. We get actually a nice montage, which I definitely really enjoy. It reveals that Esther's sister took the child, Freya, her family mourned the loss of, and Esther really came back to save Klaus's daughter from the wrath of Thalia, her sister. So that's why Esther is back. And Esther, basically, Finn comes in the aftermath, and Esther tells him that Klaus has refused her offer, and definitely now is going to be an all-out war. It's going to be an all-out war now. It's not going to end well. Haley and Klaus are tending to Elijah, but Esther promises the return of Thalia, and she is going to bring Thalia back from the dead, and it's going to be an all-out war now, and it's going to be awesome. Oh my god, guys. This episode was so amazing, and I loved it. It was so awesome to watch. There were so many awesome things about this episode. And the thing that was, so awesome about this episode that I personally just loved was all the planning, the plotting, all of that was so interesting. It's always interesting with the plotting and the planning. I always love that stuff. But we have so much else going on now because now Ollie died. Jackson, I think, is going to help Klaus and Haley with this. Because if Haley's in on this, he's going to help Klaus, okay? Because Jackson, of course, as we said, him and Haley were supposed to get married. I'm wondering if what's going to happen there. We'll have to see, but Finn, let's talk about Finn. I do not trust Finn with Cami, okay? I do not think Cami should trust Finn right now. I don't think this is going to end up well for her. I don't think Cami's going to die or anything, but this is going to backfire on her, and she is going to realize that she's an idiot. I mean, think of how many times Cami has made bad decisions. She's made so many bad decisions, and this is going to be another one of them that's not going to end well for her at all, in my opinion. Even though Cole might have, feelings for Davina, I don't think Finn has feelings for Cami, and I don't think that is genuine. I just think it's something that Esther told him to do. Klaus and Ansel, this is going to be very interesting. Is Klaus going to actually have his father help them with this? Or is he going to be like, nope, I'm not helping you. My mother summoned you. I don't want anything to do with you. I'm thinking that's what Klaus is eventually going to do, but I do think that Klaus is going to eventually warm up to him and get him to help them with this. Because I do think that Ansel does want to have a relationship with Klaus. He does want to help him. And I think that if, when Klaus really thinks about it, he does want to have a good relationship with his father. I think that is what's going on there, and that's going to be very interesting as well. Gia and Marcel. Marcel, I don't think, wants to work with the werewolves right now, but I think he's going to. If Jackson talks to him about this, here's what I think should happen. Jackson should come to Marcel and be like, okay, my friend died because of a witch. Elijah was killed because of a witch. Elijah was almost killed because of a witch. And, of course, Elijah is co-working with Marcel. So, if Marcel finds out Elijah's in danger, he's going to help them as well. And eventually, pretty much everyone's going to help them, which I am definitely looking forward to. And I think is going to be very, very cool if that's what ends up happening. And I definitely do want to see that. And I really hope that does end up happening because I definitely would really enjoy that. But overall, guys, this was by far the best episode of the season. I was so into this episode. I loved it. It was just an amazing episode. I loved everything about it. I loved seeing Esther plotting and everything. Esther's such a sinister villain. What is going to happen when she brings back Thalia from the dead? I think it's going to be all-out war. And I'm pretty sure that this, just confirms that the mid-season finale is going to be all-out war. It really does. I mean, it's going to be really awesome to watch, and I can't wait to see what happens there. Are you upset about the death of Ollie? I was surprised by how affected I was. Ollie was not a huge character, but I was surprisingly very affected by his death. Do you trust Finn? I do not trust Finn one bit. I do not think that he really does care about Cami. I think this is just Esther's, plan, and that they're just planning this so it makes it look like Cami trusts him, but, I don't think that's really is what's going on there. But I guess we'll just have to see, guys, and I think it definitely is going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening there. Oh, also, looks like Davina and Mikeal are back. I don't think Klaus is now going to be so focused on wanting to go after Mikeal. I think now his main mission is going to be go after Esther. So I don't think that Mikeal is going to work with Esther, but I don't know if he's going to work with Klaus either. So who is Mikeal going to end up working with? Maybe Mikeal is going to just be like in the middle, and that's going to be interesting because I don't really see Mikeal picking sides here. I think Mikeal's just going to be on his own side because Esther doesn't want to work with him. We know that. She's not happy that he's back, okay? She's not. You know, when Klaus told her she's back, she's not like, oh my god, he's back, it's such a great thing. No, she's upset that he's back. So I don't think that Esther's going to work with Mikeal. I don't think that Klaus is definitely not going to work with Mikeal. So is Mikeal going to really work with anyone? I don't really know, but I guess we'll just have to see. But that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Gotham. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.